Hey, what up? It's your girl Ashley. I be ballin'. Welcome to another episode of I Be Ballin' Basketball Show. We have a good one for you today. TAURASI. It's a great documentary about, TAURASI's whole life, and it covers so many things. It's on Amazon Prime, and we're gonna cover her whole life and career. I It was so much wrapped into three parts, but I think you guys are going to love it. Without further ado, I want to introduce my great guest, my cousin, William. What up, Will? Hey, hey. Talk about Road to William and where they can find you at.
Um, Road to William, my channel on YouTube where I discuss culture news. I do interviews with the people I've run into in my life that I feel will give good advice to people in life because they gave good advice and were helpful to me in life. So go check those interviews out. More to come. I love doing movie reviews because I love watching movies. So go check out those. More to come as well. And I'm working on putting out some documentary films um, that I feel like would be helpful for people too. And so, yeah, go check out Road to William. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, and mainly YouTube. So hit me up.
Yeah, one stop shop, entertainment, movie reviews, all of that. And go explore Road to William. Go on the journey. So obviously we know, right, about Tarazi. Some people consider her the GOAT, right? And, she just retired. And some people are like, one more year, because, she retired, but you didn't know if she was going to retire one more year. So it's not like, if you said, "Oh, I'm gonna retire right after this season," you know. So I guess some people like it. People get to say their goodbyes of each team, and then you have that last epic game, kind of like a Kobe game. But it I feel like whatever happens, I feel like she did it for family. I think she was ready. You
Yeah.
know, So let's list a couple of things. So she has five scoring titles. She has two finals MVPs, one regular season MVP. She has three championships, and she's the only player that has 10,000 career points, rookie of the year. And of course she's the only one to have, six gold medals. I mean,
Mm,
that's that's and we're gonna talk about how she felt about those medals too. The last one especially, there was some
mm,
drama. I was like, oh, okay. And so,
mm,
you know, oh, also she won a ton of titles overseas. We're gonna talk about that, the
mm,
murder of her owner in Russia. We're gonna talk about the WNBA and the pay and how they're treated better overseas. We're going to talk about childhood in Argentina versus the States and Gino with Huskies. Talk about her wife Penny, Sue Bird. I like Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi. They're just like always attached to each other. They started off in college and then they're like spent their whole careers with one team, and they're like they are the ones that really set this whole WNBA up. But
yeah.
if you could describe this documentary in one word or one phrase, what would it be? It's very tough. I'll let you go first, cuz
I would say passion, or like the definition of what a GOAT has to do because um you have to you have to love it more than just saying like I love basketball. You gotta like live, breathe it. You know what I mean? Because it's gonna be a lot of things that come with it. The fame is a big part. And we saw that they didn't hold anything back from this. But what kept her, I think, throughout, even though they were throwing some shade, I feel like at her a little bit with the ageism and stuff. Somebody was like, "Oh, I'm just shocked she can play at this level." And I'm like, "Don't do too much." Like, I get what you mean, but like, don't do too much. But yeah. So I would definitely say passion because that's what kept her going throughout. You know.
Okay, okay. There's so many words, repetitiveness. I would say dedication, because, she was dedicated to the game of basketball. Some people say they love basketball, but they love what basketball can give you. But, just the sport of alone, you could tell just by the way she plays, fierce, competitiveness, but some people didn't really like her style, where it was like, you know, kind of like swag, outspoken, playing with attitude, I don't know what it is, but with women, it's like, oh, you guys, because even back in the day, they made women play only in the half court, because they're like, oh, they're gonna get tired and stuff. And then Title IX came and all that. But it's like when women show, passion, they yell, yeah, they talk some trash. They're like, no, you're not being a lady. But when the guys do it, oh, it's okay. And it's like, um, oh, why are they so physical, Like, I just don't understand. It's basketball. It's a sport, guys. It's not like, you can't touch people. It's not like a one-on-one sport. It's tennis, back and forth. No, there's physicality in it. Okay, that my rant's over. Okay. Stick to the Tarasi. Because, I really did like this because, um, it went from childhood to, of course, to now, but I would say dedication. That would be my word, because I feel like she was dedicated. Because even at the end, they were talking about how, like, her game came too early because now the WNBA is getting attention. And some of the legends are, getting overlooked because they don't really know about the history, even before Tarazi, there was Tro Soups and, Tina
Mhm.
Thompson, and there was, Cynthia Cooper, Lisa Leslie, right? But, Diana Taurasi, she added even more excitement. But people are like, oh, I wish Diana Taurasi would play now because, it's more spotlight. But really, dedication, like, I feel like a lot of players are playing for the next generation, in the next generation. And that's why they're doing all this CBA stuff. It's not necessarily for them. Sure, they want to get benefits from it, but it's about the future as well. Like, Caitlin Clark has brought a lot of eyes to the game, but imagine when Caitlin Clark retires, there's going to be another Caitlin Clark coming into it, right? And so I feel like she's definitely dedicated all the women because, they're playing year round. So I'm pretty sure their bodies, are very sore, because right after, the regular season and playoffs in, they're right back at it overseas. So they, what was, let me think. What was your favorite scene? I'll start there. What was your favorite scene out of all the parts? Um, What was your favorite scene to watch?
My favorite scene, I just liked seeing her play more because I didn't really. I'm just not learning about more about sports. I don't be knowing no players to be honest. So just seeing her highlights was dope. Seeing her family was some dope shots. Those are like my favorites. Seeing her parents talk about her and but my favorite episode is episode 2. We'll get into why, but that's my favorite episode.
Okay, episode two. Okay, okay, uh, I, of course, I love all the basketball highlights. Of course, I mainly like for like documentaries. I mainly like watching when they're kids, and even when DT was a kid, she was busting them. You could tell she had that it factor, right? But I think I really liked hearing her immigrant parents talk about how they was in Argentina and then Cali and then all those stories. And I like how the mom said they didn't really like Juno, um, the UConn coach. Different stories that I never heard of. I think those are my favorite parts. Or you get into more details of stories you heard. But even Diana Taurasi's sister, hearing from her point of view of like it was always about Diana Taurasi, and you know, Taurasi didn't really like Argentina like that. Right? They did have more freedom, but basketball wasn't like it was in the States.
Mhm.
But DT's sister wanted to stay in Argentina. So I like different stories like that. Was there a part of the documentary where something shocked you, something shocked you like, oh wow, you had that wow moment, that shock factor.
The shock factor for me, one was like when I saw the body of the coach from Russia, and I was like, whoa. But then I realized like a lot of films and things like that outside the US, even the news, they're very like raw and graphically. Like we're opposed to like here in the US, we're like more reserved about it. Like, oh, but there are some things that got passed and was all over social media when certain celebrities pass. Sometimes see that. So, but I was like, that was a while to me. Like, whoa, I didn't know we was gonna be up in the car with him. Whoa, but then that was a real shock factor for me because Diana didn't. She kind of reflected more like, dang, we've been in that car multiple times, and it could have been us as well, and just taking life even more serious, and not like take it more serious, but like we're only here for you never know when you could go. You just never know. And to just be more aware of it, who you surround yourself with, the people. But I get it, time, the money is good. You need it, you're feeding your family. But, looking back, I like how they all had a reflection on it, even Diana's team. Like, yeah, it was probably not the best decision, but that was a big shock factor to me. One of at least.
Yeah, always going overseas, because it's for family, how else we gonna pay the bills, um played in Russia and Turkey, won a lot of championships. The owner was, you know I didn't know like he brought like everybody that was big in the WNBA over to his team. I saw Candace Parker, I saw Don Staley, I saw Lauren Jackson. I was like, whoa, he got everybody because, he got those big bucks. And it was like, where does the money come from? Is he part of the mafia or the mob? But he would treat them like superstars, whereas in the WNBA, they weren't treated like that. They probably had the best hotels, the best restaurants, the best food. They didn't probably have to worry about anything. Whereas, WNBA, they don't have those private jets and, sometimes you're shocked. Because, like, back in the day, they had to share hotel rooms with a teammate. But I guess now they can have their own room, but I don't know. But, a lot of, like, when you read the CBA, you'll be like, whoa, I didn't know that mothers didn't have paid, time off, maternity leave, but now they do. But, it's almost like they're slowly getting there. But, there's rumors about them having possible lockout because, they're not agreeing right now, eye to eye. Um, but yeah, he treated them. Oh, but I liked how, Tarasi was saying like he was family, and like the owner was saying, that's like his daughter. I was like shocked because sometimes you owners, you're not that close. Some owners aren't really personable like that. So I think it was good. And, hearing more details, because in the Sue Bird documentary, we heard about it, but they didn't go into this much detail the way, Tarazi's doc did. But yeah, treating them like royalty. And I forgot what it was, but Diana Taurasi was like, oh no, we gotta go. They didn't like the cold winters, and it was a different language, but I think they got used to it. And I think that's how it is for a lot of players, different language, different food, away from family. But you also be like, man, we got to go back to the WNBA where we don't get this type of treatment. So it's like, what do you do? Um, so I want to talk about college. Did you because Gino, they UConn, they win all the time, and they get the best players there. You know, so many players have went there. Were you a little surprised to hear that, you know, Gino really got into Tarasi, you know, getting her to really know how to play ball, limit the turnovers, getting into the best shape? I think Juno played a big part in her career, even more, made her more disciplined, I think. What do you think about her college career?
I think the conditioning and training and all that is normal. I didn't last. I tried doing that for a hot I said, nope, I'm good. I didn't make it past tryouts. I get it. But I didn't take it serious because I remember me and you were practicing that summer before we went to college. Well, you were there before me, but this was my first year going to that one. And I was like, I didn't even a year before that trying to make a team on especially a college one was not on my radar. So we practiced a little bit, but I still wasn't taking it as serious because I was like, well, in the mindset I was like, I'm probably not gonna make it anyway, so I'm just do what I can. But I missed all the practice trainings you could do at the beginning. I was like, oh dear. But it's real. What I'm saying is when I did the tryouts, like even through the tryouts, it's real. Like you gotta really want it. You gotta really hustle. That's what I'm saying. You can't just like the game itself. You gotta like come in like just needing tweaks. You know what I mean? Like this ain't like, oh, we're building a foundation. It's like, no. You gotta already like love it for what it is, not just the game itself. Um, so I definitely got some flashbacks with some of these coachings, but yeah, I was like not surprised at all. That's just what it takes. That's why I said part of it for my word was passion and goat in training because people just like to label people a goat. But it's like, what is a goat? Part of her nickname is White Mamba, named after Black Mamba, Kobe. We all know the little bit of a little bit that they tell us the lengths he would go to train and all that. And so I think that's just the coach knew what it was, what you had to do to win. And if you aren't disciplined and willing to check that ego at the mother parking lot, you know what I mean? Like, because we in that gym, it's about team. It's not about just being your individual self. Like, that's what you do outside of that court on yourself, one on ones. That's you. It's focused on you and building your muscle up and training. That's all on you. But when you're on that court, it's about a team. So then you don't know about how this player gonna help this player and how y'all gonna make this play work. The coach, that's the coach's job. So yeah, you got to get in there and grind.
Yeah, I think her attitude and her mindset, you know, separated her from, all the rest. And sometimes you gotta, have a reality check, sometimes from high school to college to the pros. Let's talk about her career in Phoenix Mercury. He had a lot of great players. I liked how they talked about Penny Taylor, that and how there was different stages of her championships. Um, but also she had to compete with Sue Bird out in the West with Seattle Storm. But even with Brittany Griner, that was another stage of her career where, because I feel like I feel like that was a little rigged. I don't know. I don't know. I think they were trying to get Brittany Griner. I don't know, but they got her. And seeing all the players through and through her career and the coaches playing fast, I liked how they went through her career. But I was like, did she ever have like a signature shoe? They didn't really mention it because I think there's like six women now that have their own signature shoe or will get it, and that may not seem big, but it is big for the WNBA. Um, so I was like, she had to have had it, so I need to look that up if she ever had it. They didn't really talk about it, but I really liked clutch moments that they showed. But her career, what did you think about her overall career with Phoenix Mercury? But not only that, um, talk about the Olympics, because that's six, Olympic gold medals. That's pretty big because the Olympics is every 4 years. But I think she did get it when she was a rookie, so that helped. But we gotta talk
Yeah.
about the last one being diminished. She didn't feel like she deserved it. We gotta talk about that. So let's talk about her overall pro career.
Yeah, pro career, that's next level. But I like how she gave us insight on like, look, the reality of playing in the pros. Um, and I think it kind of just went downhill once that coach died, passed on, because she was more in the headlines because they were like, oh, what is she in trouble for now? I'm like, trouble? What are you talking about?
Oh
But
yeah, the DUI. They talked about the DUI and being the face of the league. Yeah.
yeah, I think it just made, the game a little bit more harder, maybe um, more pressure. The ageism is real. But I didn't know she played with BG either. I was like, whoa, what? I was learning everything up in this film. I was like, what? So I thought that was dope. But it was also a fresh start, because I felt like she's just literally coming from that college. It's like that college person, and then it's like, okay, outside of college, who are you? Who are you? She was even saying, you know what I mean? You just rediscovering yourself after each chapters in your life, I feel like. And we're still looking to see like what would the next chapter be after this, because she still can move, she can still play the game, you know what I mean? So that would be dope if she wanted to, or even coach, or I don't know. Um, and then you said, I forgot the second part.
Well, I wanted you to
Oh,
comment
the
on,
Olympics.
yeah,
The
the last Olympic.
I get how she was feeling, where it was like it was just handed to her, but I feel like, I don't know, that did seem a little rigged, because why even fly her there if you weren't gonna play her? What's the point? I think it was, they put her name on there to help sell some seats. I don't know. Because other than that, I don't know.
I I do think you need to give the next generation time, but I also think since everybody knew this was going to be her last Olympics, I don't know why you don't play her a little bit. I'm not saying start her and play her 30 minutes, no. But especially in crunch time when you need a bucket, you go to DT.
Right.
She don't know what to do. I
Yes.
think it
I
was a
agree.
little disrespectful, but would I have played her, 30 plus minutes? No. But to not play her, that was a little disrespectful. And I guess she didn't know the reason. They didn't even tell her about the diminished role. And thought that was a little disrespectful, but I'll let it go. But I think she seems like a player. I mean, a person that just doesn't really care what people think. Um, Also talk about in the beginning of the WNBA when she first came in, they talked about, well, they talked about it with suebird documentary too, the hair down, dressing girly, you know, why is she so confident and swag? They wanted to sell tickets to the straight audience and things like that. Um, and they did talk about marketing and oh, they did talk. Well, we did talk a little bit about overseas in the WNBA in college. And now in college, you can get NIL. See, that's the thing. When you're paving the way and trailblazing the way, you may not get as paid as much, may not get the, spotlight, if you will, like your flowers. It's just some generations won't know you and, you know, but you do it for the next generation. And she even talked about how they didn't really have the platforms like they have now with social media, right? And they didn't really voice their opinions as much as they should have. And and now, a lot of players are voicing their opinions in different ways. So talk a little bit about that. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, it's funny. It's funny that you said outlet, because I do remember DT saying that, like, they didn't have the outlets to, express themselves, because it's like a double-edged sword. It's like, yeah, but that same social media or whatever could come back at you and be like, da 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 da. You have a instant response. The world responds quicker, to what you're saying. Whereas like 10 years ago, people probably be like, you said what in a magazine? I didn't read that. But but now it's so in your face. But it's funny you said that, because um they had mentioned, and this was going with the whole ageism thing, like, um they called they basically called DT like some doors of they called her the doors of, like, paving the way, holding the doors open for the real players to come in and play, basically. And it's funny that they use lockout, because that to me is also an outlet. Before social media, that was a way to, or that is still a way to kind of hear what these players are saying, hear people out, just like Colin Kaepernick with the knee. Like, sometimes you gotta do something drastic for people to hear you. So the fact that they called her Adora, I just thought it was funny because she could be that same person to actually help make this, game greater, make this industry better just for the WNBA because she's one of those legends. And I think that goes into just how they treat women in general. It's misogyny. They don't respect women as much in the US versus different countries. Like, you know what I mean? I think it's also that too, what we're based in. If you see someone on the street, need some help, what are you more likely to do? Um, but yeah, so I took out of this was you gotta grind hard for your passions. And you can't really care about what people say because people are gonna say literally anything to try and tear you down. So yeah, this was definitely a good three-part series.
For
And I look
sure.
forward to more. And she's funny as hell. She had me cracking up. Her and Sue Bird had me cracking up. Um, and I like the story about her and her wife and their kids, and just seeing her be with their kids. Definitely cried, had a tearjerker at the end. It's like, oh my god. But because I like with the Olympics, like even though she didn't get to play, she was there for her family, and I like how her dad was just as mad as her. Like,
Yeah.
but it's like that's like a positive way to look at it. Like she could have just been out there by herself or just with her team, and that would have been fine. But your family is who you do it for. So the fact that they were able to celebrate at least that together was everything.
Yeah. The Sue Bird relationship, that's cool. They're like best friends. They do a show sometimes in March Madness. I think they should be regular WNBA commentators, but they have like the Sue Bird and TAURASI show during March Madness. And so, yeah, DT is always funny. And I think there's even YouTube bits. Somebody made YouTube videos of like all the short videos where Diana is being funny. Um,
Okay. Mhm.
so check that out. But
Okay.
yeah, they talked about Penny and how was a solid rock and they started off as friends and they were playing on the Mercury together, but also um international. They talked about how Penny was married first and then it went to Tarasi. And I was like, oh wow, a love triangle. but but they also talked about like the balance of the relationship.
Hmm.
And I'm seeing that more in documentaries too. Like what does, athlete do and what does the, stay-at-home mom does. And so I'm seeing that in like this football documentary. But overall, I think it's a must watch. It's a great film.
Definitely.
Diana Taurasi, the one-liners is awesome. Like she said something about the janitor made more than the WNBA players. I
Yeah,
was like, oh
that
my
was
goodness. Uh, I think it, but also they talked about keeping the game alive, for the next generation. There was so much about it. Next, we're gonna talk about she did have um like a beef with the WNBA because, there was a doping incident. And, sometimes, athletes take P tests, and they said she had, a, some type of doping drug and she won the case. She got the best anti-doping lawyer, but that did like, news headlines. Oh, the face of the league is, she did. I think some people don't like her because they're like, maybe she's too cocky or maybe she's too loud and showing too much swag, but that's just her personality. They want people to just be quiet. Oh, and the lab got shut down because of, I guess they got the test results wrong. But, you know, that was a huge part about it. What did you think about that whole doping incident?
Um, I like how she stood her ground and, didn't fall for whatever that lawyer was trying to get her to admit to. And
Yeah,
I think some people or a lot of people might fall in victim to that. Like, well, maybe, I get to play but if it's like if you didn't do anything wrong, then you gotta fight it.
yeah, because they wanted her to take a plea deal, but it's like if you didn't do anything, then why would you? Some people do that. I don't know about this system, but I'm glad she won the case. So we need to talk about, they did mention the Caitlin Clark stuff and the new generation coming through, right? Um, Bringing a lot of like new audiences in, fans of theirs from college. So, Diana Taurasi, says what's on her mind. She doesn't sugarcoat things. And so she was asked a question about Caitlin Clark. And then, it turned into this whole big thing where she was like, reality is coming, and all the Caitlin Clark fans was like, well, why don't you retire? All these old players hogging up all the roster spots and all this stuff. But I think sometimes things are like misconstrued. People are like, oh, she's jealous of Caitlin Clark because she's getting all this publicity and blah blah blah. I think sometimes when you don't like praise the new generation, they say old generation is hating. But I think she was just saying it's a difference between, college and the pros. I think it's more faster, more physical, so the rookies, they got to get stronger. I don't think she was dissing Caitlin, but a lot of people were calling her a hater. Um, but I think it's all about how your game translates to the pros. And sometimes rookies struggle and they have to figure things out. I think Kaylin Clark, she did struggle a little bit in the beginning, like a couple of the games, but then she found her way. And then she was balling. And then the second half of the season, she was really balling. So what do you think about that whole controversy?
And it's great. I never heard of it. I feel like I heard more of the Angel Reese versus
Yeah.
Caitlin Clark. So this
Yeah.
really went past me. So I was learning new stuff watching this. And the clips they put in here did seem like direct hate for each other. Like, um, it was this one scene like they were on the court and Caitlin was looking at her. I was like, damn, you really me mugging it. All right, but oh my god. But I think it's just that mentality you gotta have on the court. Like, yeah, off the court. Well, I don't know because they were talking crap off the court, but I think that leaps out outside the court. That that ego, that grit you gotta have when you're on the court. I think it spills out in every WNBA, NBA, any sport. It spills out anytime you leave that. You allow it to leave the court. To be honest, but yeah, like you said, it's the old versus the new.
Yeah.
It's always gonna be like that. They do that with LeBron all the time. They do that with whoever, whoever's the hot topic of the moment.
Yeah, I think it's just the media, really. I think the media creates all these beefs. I do think you need rivalries in the league. Even the NBA, they're missing that, you
I don't
know.
know. I don't know if you need it. I think it automatically comes with it. Like I don't think it's needed. I think the media definitely creates it because they're the ones creating the questions in the first place. They're not just like, yeah, I'm about to sit here and just talk about the enemy or y'all say is the enemy. You telling me what the person said. You know what I mean? We didn't sit down and have a conversation and talk about it, and now I'm coming to y'all with it. Y'all ask these questions to Caitlin, and you ask these questions to DT, and then so yeah, it is the media. It's the people who feel like, what's gonna make my channel pop or my this pop or that pop. And if the whole thing is they gotta if you sit down on that mic after the game, whatever, you're deciding to get with the shit, get down with it. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm not gonna say it's one sided. It's definitely you play into it, that's what you're getting yourself into. That's just how it is. But I don't think it's needed. I think it's just automatically it comes with it. But media hypes it up and instigates.
Yeah, I think they try to create storylines, some that aren't there, some are exaggerated. I I do think basketball does need rivalries because that's when audiences really spark up, you know. For example, the NBA was really doing good when it was like LeBron versus Curry in the finals all those years. That's when it was really popping. And I think the more that NBA teams, WNBA teams, even all sports, the more certain teams meet in the playoffs, the more those beefs increase and the rivalries increase. Like with the Bucks and Pacers, don't like the Pacers because there was a lot of drama in the regular season. Then it poured in to the playoffs, and that's what happens. And I think you do need that because you know, the, it's like the Celtics and Lakers rivalry. Over decades, that's been a huge rivalry with the Celtics and Lakers. And whenever they meet in the playoffs, right, it's a huge thing. And I think you do need that because it kind of it's sort of like a timeline. You can go back in history about it. I think the WNBA, when it was the Sparks versus the Lynx, that was when the WNBA was really popping, right? So I think that's how you create it by meeting in the playoffs multiple times, and then those teams really don't like each other. So I don't like this team. Uh, but yeah, I think I like the whole Angel Reese versus Caitlin Clark thing, but I don't like the racism that follows it. If you just keep it on the court about the game and the basketball skills or moves, then it's fine. But when you do all this name calling and, bigotry and it's terrible. But um that that's on the fans. There's certain fans that buy into that. And then there's some fans that are like, no, let's keep it about basketball. But yeah, overall, I think they have respect for each other. Diana Taurasi, Kaylin, they have respect for each other. And I think sometimes the veterans want flowers, but the new kids on the block, they do want to feel respected by the old heads because they've looked up to the old heads, right? And I think the veterans, they want their flowers and their respect, right? So it's just acknowledge each other. And then when you acknowledge each other and give everybody love, then it's all good.
It's kind of like hip hop, you know. It's a lot of ageism in hip hop. A lot of disrespect goes into hip hop. Um, but then you see the greatness of it, the impacts it has. But we get a lot of you'll see a LL Cool J, and then somebody will be like, "Who's listening to that right now?" And then you'll have a newer artist come in that's 18, 19, 20. You know, if you're above 21, you too old. You know what I mean? Um, like I saw it was like Money Long and Life Jennings getting into it. I'm like, what?
Oh yeah, I
You
saw
got
that.
R&B beef? What's going on? And
That
so
was that was like so
I
unnecessary.
was like, what's going on?
Yes.
So it's music, it's always, but I don't really be hearing about R&B. I'm like, that's a little bit too much. But hip hop for sure, it's competitive, but definitely a lot of the old people need to go. They don't know what we talking about. They don't understand it. Then it's also the old heads like, I don't want to hear that. Hey, it ain't nothing like that.
The
That good
mumble
old.
rap.
And you're like, oh boy. But then if you really think about it, everything's not a mumble rap. That's just people shoving it off because they don't want to hear about it. Just like issues in America, issues in life, you know, that happens all the time in every aspect of life. But I noticed in this, it's sports too, but you got to give each other respect. That's why I'm not taking no sides on that because I'm like, well, y'all both was kind of going at it. But you said yeah, they need it. But I think what happens with the WNBA, they're already getting looked at, critiqued on others. I feel like when they hype this petty stuff up, it's like, well, y'all couldn't hype up anything else but this. Ask any other questions. Oh, would y'all want to play with each other? Play on the same team one day, or you could ask literally any other questions. But then
Yeah.
that's your time to, if you don't have an outlet, everybody don't have a platform to speak on it. Maybe they felt like this is our time to say something. Because other than asking about the game, I don't know why they do those press conferences right after. You let me know what's important. What's the importance of doing that if all they're gonna do is just let media come in and ask some crazy questions?
Well, it's required, and sometimes that football player that said, "I'm just here so I won't get fined." You have to do those things, but I think they do it right after because you are emotional right after a game, whether you win or lose. They want you to slip up and say something or, you know. So I think that's what they do. And, they want to hear from players right after the game. I would get a little tired of it, but I don't think it's one big, I think it's a big deal either way. But they do it right after the games because the games just ended and maybe you'll slip up and say something because it might be pissed. Or you might be so excited that you slip up and say something for the next matchup. But
Yeah. But I mean, they could revamp that too. That's so doggone old. I don't want to sit here look at y'all farting in front of me all 20 minutes. Then I gotta go shower, see my face. I don't care about y'all. That's why I'm saying, like, if they could revamp that whole thing. And I don't know. I think they're just getting lazy with the questions and they trying to go about it the same way as the NBA. And I think they just need to find a way to stand out?
yeah, each reporter is different. And there's been even players and reporter beefs too. You know, a certain player doesn't like a certain reporter. Um, so there's been stuff like that. There's videos on that. And I like to hear the funny responses from the players. Um, but yeah, I think we do need more better questions from reporters. And I feel like even on ESPN, the shows, they just talk about drama or they're just
Yeah, it's
shouting at
like
one another.
it's a,
Like we
it's a
want more
shouting show, and
sports.
everybody's played into it. Stephen A. Smith's played into it. Now everybody getting older, so they want to just backtrack. Everybody, we gotta get along. Like after all years, y'all done talk crap to people. I think it's just a new way y'all gotta, the sports world gotta find a way to revamp it because everything will die out. You know, what is other than a lockout? Gonna do? Lockout. It's like a protest. Some people look at that as like that's not effective. It's this lockout. going to be effective? And what other ways can they do it,
Well, other athletes, they're having their own podcasts now. Some people are watching more podcasts than ESPN. But lockouts, it's not really about ESPN. It's more so contracts with the players versus the league. But I don't know. I just think shows are just about who got the hottest, weirdest take. Even if you don't believe in what you're saying, if you say something outrageous, people are going to respond to it. It's like, it's not, we want more basketball breakdowns and
Mm,
sports analysts. But, it's always about who's better, drama,
yeah, the
and
same old thing.
yeah. Congratulations, Sue Bird.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations on having a statue. She has a
Mm,
statue outside of the Storm's arena. I feel like
cool.
she might be the first WNBA player to have her own statue. I know Asia Wilson has a statue. That's for college. When she has like a college statue when she was with Gamecocks. But this is like for
Oh,
her
nice.
WNBA career. So
Mm-hmm.
congrats, Sue, on that. Salute. What? Oh yeah. Tell them one video to look out for on your channel, Road to William.
Ball for me. I'm going to be doing a comparison between Deliver Us from Eva and Fall for Me, so look out for that. Um, and Frida. That's another one. Look out for Frida.
Okay, okay, okay. Look out. Oh, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe and go to the Road to William and explore and visit and venture off and
Mm-hmm.
search high and low. A lot of dope
I'm
videos.
still here. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I think that's Tisha Campbell, I think.
You better know.
Yeah. Tarazi is definitely a goat. I don't feel like there's a goat per se, but she's definitely one of the goats for
Oh,
sure.
I saw your Candace Parker in there. Did you see Candace Parker in it?
Yeah, when they